Dr. Teresa and Dr. Anne. Anyone here? Okay, the next one is Dr. Rafika Kurti. Not here. The last one will be engineer Ahmed Hiri Fuad. Ahmed Hiri or Ahmed Hiri Fuad. Well, these are our presenters. Maybe they will join in a few minutes, hopefully. But we will start with the first round of presentations. And then we'll have a short break with 4-round table discussion. And then we'll go to the next presentations.
Very good. Perfect.
We have 2 more minutes to start.
Yes, normally people are going to session A and forget that we have also parallel panel. I informed the colleague to inform the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, they're just coming from the lunch break, so you usually come late.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Yasser, I am trying, since the authors are joining, I am trying to introduce you. The session of the first and second round table will be chaired by Professor Dr. Yasser Mahbub from Galilei University, Faculty of Architecture from Egypt.
Yes.
And we are very pleased to accept the invitation and to be with us during this session. And we would be very pleased if you deliver your speech.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to some of you, afternoon to some of you, and good day to all of you. I'm Dr. Yasser Mahbub, Associate Professor, Program Director, Faculty of Architecture at Galilei University, Egypt. I will be chairing this session entitled Sustainability and Urban Design / Perception, which is a very interesting theme and topic. It contains 7 very interesting papers and presentations. We will start with 4 papers, then a roundtable discussion, and then we will have the last 3 papers, then a second roundtable discussion. The 7 papers actually cover various topics ranging from environmental quality assessment, city perception, smell as a placemaking, urban skyline, sun shelters use, urban actions involvement, and finally parks for the visually impaired. Very, very stimulating topics indeed. With the theme of perception as the guiding theme for this session, it ties the papers together actually. As Phenomenology of Perception, Merleau-Ponty indicated, the body is our general medium for having the world. So we perceive the world through our body, through our senses and our experience in the world. And this is what the papers actually address, how our body senses help us perceive and interact with the world in the philosophical term and the environment in the architectural and urban term. And with that, I would leave the floor for the presenters to start their presentations. Our first presenter is assessment of environmental quality through users' perception in Gulma City, Algeria, by Busaina Sayed and Jamal Al-Kama. I will run the presentation. If you are following it, please let me know that everything is fine.
Hello, I'm Busaina Sayed from University of Galma, Algeria. I'm here today to share with you a presentation entitled Assessment of the Environmental Quality Through Users' Perception in Galma City, Algeria. To begin, the assessment of the environmental quality in outdoor spaces is generally based on the evaluation of the physical qualities felt by users, which are at the origin synonymous with architectural and urban atmospheres, material atmospheres like light, colors, smells, noise, winds, etc. Aesthetic or social ones of a place as it is perceived. Outdoor spaces as physical environments can evoke strong emotional reactions for users, which contributes to draw up a mental image of outdoor spaces. Thus, several approaches of environmental perception, physical, philosophical, and physiological exists. Three concepts to be defined in our study. The perception. Perception is to see, to hear, and to feel a variety of simultaneous sensitive phenomena. Mental image. The mental image of outdoor spaces is made up of a set sensation relating to the perceived components. Perceptual assessment is the process that transforms a user's mental image into attitudes and then to a behavior. Materials and methods. The environmental quality assessment is based on a set of scientifically valid assessment criteria and indicators linked to the principle of sustainable development. As it is shown in the graph, the perception of the physical environment is done through the five human senses, and it is subject to a set of exogenous parameters that are related to the physical environment and that indirectly influence users' perception of the urban outdoor spaces. However, the perceived environment is synonymous with the physical environment in the minds of users. Data corpus. Data corpus was obtained through a questionnaire survey administered in three outdoor spaces located in Galma, Martyr Square, Al Hurriya Public Garden, and Bournemouth Square. A sample of 45 respondents were questioned face-to-face in French or in dialectal Arabic on a weekend day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The question covers several types of questions under three headings: interviewee identification, use and attendance of the outdoor space, and assessment of the environmental quality. Results and discussion. The visual quality. Visual quality has been apprehended through the homogeneity of the surrounding landscape as well as the user's mental representation of the physical environment. Three response options were used to describe the quality of the urban landscape in the three outdoor spaces as shown in the graph. In contrast of Wilmach Square, the landscape quality in both spaces, Martyr Square and Al Hurriya Garden, was mostly voted as homogeneous, where natural elements are dominant. This initially indicates that users perceive the aesthetic occurrence of natural elements, especially vegetation, which represents the most important landscape element in users' imagination of outdoor spaces. The sensory quality. In order to explore the sensory quality, we have focused on the degree of calm in the three outdoor spaces using four response options: very calm, quiet, harmful, and very harmful. The results are shown in the graph. The answer variation within each outdoor space indicates that Martyr Square is the most harmful one, from which users have widely used the option very harmful to describe the degree of sensory nuisance. Most of users describe the sensory quality of the outdoor spaces as calm or quiet. Hence, 73% of respondents perceive nuisance as a part of the general atmosphere of the outdoor space. Users' perception of the sensory quality outdoors can be defined as a symphony of music resulting from several sounds that can be both harmful and amazing, like people talking, peep, foot, passing cars, etc. Olfactory quality. The olfactory quality has been explored by testing the degree of agreeability to the existing odors, as well as the specific smells that remind users of the outdoor space. Four response options were used by users to describe the quality of the urban landscape in the three outdoor spaces as shown in the figure. Most of users perceive the olfactory quality of the outdoor spaces as pleasant and very pleasant, while few of them have shown the unpleasantness of the exist odors. Again, they make the link with the waste management and the type of vegetation. However, users recommend flowering vegetation to improve the odors outdoors, giving the example of the jasmine implanted in other outdoor spaces of the city. The hygrothermal quality. In the present study, we have tested the way users perceive the hygrothermal quality outdoors through two main aspects: thermal comfort and natural elements contributions in both seasons, winter and summer. Five response options were used to explore the thermal comfort level outdoors, with the option natural to express an average satisfaction level with the thermal conditions. In winter, the most of outdoor spaces, users feel unpleasant and uncomfortable, with a minority that feels natural to comfortable. In summer, the thermal quality was highly voted by users as unpleasant in both spaces, Al Hurriya Garden and Bulmukh Square, while the perception of the thermal quality in Martyr Square was voted almost equally as pleasant, natural, or unpleasant. The role of natural elements. The answer to the question, do you think summer temperatures are cooler in this area? makes a good articulator for exploring the perception of thermal quality and the role of natural elements to improve it. Actually, vegetation was perceived equally as satisfying and little satisfying in Martyrs Square, with downs and large trees, which clearly indicate that urban trees have contributed to the thermal comfort. Indeed, the majority of the respondents are aware of the regulatory function of vegetation and water in outdoor spaces, and they demand the lack of water areas. In general, users psychophysical perception of the environmental quality outdoors depends on the physical environment features. In our study, the geographical location is the most influential parameter in the environmental quality. However, the visual and the sensory quality of Al Hurriya Garden are better perceived and described by users due to its situation away from nuisance and high-rise buildings. The footprint and vegetation ratio are important influential parameters in the environmental quality. Thus, users in Martyrs Square perceive vegetation as the basic element that builds and gives aesthetic and agrothermal value to outdoor spaces. Conclusion. This study contributes to a new understanding of the environmental quality assessment, as well as the whole atmosphere of the outdoor spaces based on users' perception. The results indicate that users' physio- psychophysical perception of the environmental quality of outdoor spaces depends on the physical environment features, such as location, surrounding buildings, vegetation ratio, etc. However, the physiological dimension persists during the assessment of the users, and users were influenced by certain psychological feelings that create a certain belonging to outdoor spaces. The perceptual assessment reveals that certain characteristics of outdoor spaces are similarly evaluated, such as the presence of water and the treatment of green areas. In some, outdoor spaces have to play several roles depending on the local context and neighborhood. Hence, the use and the occupancy of outdoor spaces differs from place to another. It's necessary to avoid generic assumptions and to encourage local perceptual assessment.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
As we agreed before, we'll keep the questions and inquiries until the end of the four presentations. And now we'll go to the next presentation.
Hello, this is Gözde Galtaşçı from Beykent University Faculty of Architecture. This research is about the effects of built environment on people and also the capital focus on built environment. So basically, there are two types of environment, as social and physical, and there are two types of physical environment as far as we know as natural and built. Formerly, built environment was not taken into account about its effects on people's behaviors and psychology. After 1960s, it was revealed that not only social environment, but also physical environment has effects on people's behavior, psychology, and who they are going to be. Research on this subject is carried out under the name of environmental psychology. This is the basic form of environmental psychology. Basically, humans, in terms of the way of their living, their demands, social typology affects the building typology, and the built environment affects the people in terms of psychology and behavior. So this concept is mostly human-centered and there is a mutual relationship. However, together with industrial revolution, the focus has changed and everything became capital-centered instead of human-centered. The mutual deal between the city dwellers and the city was interrupted. The way of living has changed to a more practical way, but it has its limit. However, the building typology touched the new life of city dwellers slightly and followed mostly the new commercial focus in parallel to the new economic policies. This led the globalization came into force in every level of life. So this is the study method in this research, ecological psychology under the name of environmental psychology with environmental research level. It is carried out within the scope of this study constitutes the examination of the effects of variables in the economic system, variables in the working model, structural changes and life changes on the psychology of the city dwellers who are fixed or instantaneous users of this case study region, how the region is perceived by the city dwellers, and what the structuring effects are evaluated within this framework. Globalization led spread of companies in the world. Also, they brought their own building typologies, and this took especially some chosen cities to be metropolitanized. Metropoles are megacities that you share the city with working areas. Also, rich and poor segments live together because there are job opportunities everywhere, and they are fast cities, and living close to the city center is very important. Also, in accordance with the globalization, there is a sector consisting white collars with long working hours. This part has been analyzed in the preceding paper in detail and how they affect the building typology. In Turkey, Istanbul has been distinguished to be the metropolitan due to its location, urban characteristics, and population diversity. And Levant region was the central focus. Levant region was first outside of the center. With the migrations, settlement needs has occurred and slums has started to be spread. Therefore, around 1950s, Emlak Credit Bank decided to build an area for housing settlements. In this map, they can be seen here. First, there were only housing settlements at first, second, third, and fourth Levant, but then the area attracted production facilities. After a while, the blue area in the map was full of with production facilities, mostly pharmaceutical factories. So that Levant region got all the attention, and the producers put pressure on the management and made it possible for organizations that would operate commercially in this field to obtain building permits. After the area was determined as a tourism zone first and then a commercially active zone, factories left the lands in blue color and left them to commercial organizations. During these processes, high-rise building permits were also obtained. Therefore, today's map has been formed with all these commercially centered high-rise buildings on both sides of Büyükdere Avenue. Behind this west axis, there are slums mostly, and behind this east axis, mostly the old settlements are stayed there, but only structurally, they are all commercialized now. This change is all caused from the globalization and its commercially centered features. However, the built environment is for humans, basically, and a human-centered public environment should reflect the cultural characteristics of the city and its society. Climatic characteristics on the basis of the city should be proper for human scale that people can contact with the city, should have human and environmentally friendly materials. Fullness and emptiness relations are very important. And since the people belong to nature but live in an artificial built environment, at least nature connection must be established through building forms, emptiness, fullness in the city, materials, and green. The high-rise buildings create a boundary in this region, and natural climatic characteristics as sea wind, solar radiation, natural light are unavailable to get benefit from, especially in the inner parts. Istanbul has a mild to mid climate, so both wind and solar radiation are very important. High-rise buildings cast shadows around them and also behave as an obstacle for the wind. This is a partial area on the west axis of Büyükdere Avenue. This line consists entirely of high-rise buildings. In a perceptual level, this line behaves as a wall, so we can call it Levant wall. It behaves as a boundary because we cannot see behind it. It feels as the city finishes there. This is mostly because of the building's height and density. So this graphic shows the human scale, building scale relation. There are sidewalks, so people who work there or just passing by are having this perceptual boundary experience. If you enter behind the west axis, there is a totally different life, mostly for blue collar, old standard building typologies with a very dense settlement. These buildings converted mostly from slum settlements. As in these photos, the two lifestyle and building typology come across. The buildings reflect the city's identity, in fact. However, these capital-centered buildings are not reflecting Istanbul, but they reflect the new world rules. And these unidentified high-rise buildings create these complex settlements behind them in order to provide shelter for workers. So unidentification spreads to a part of the city. While the city should be read as a whole, in that way, the city face becomes broken. Behind the east axis, there are still the old Levant housing settlements, but only structurally. They are all commercially in use now. As cities affect the psychological and behavioral structure of the society, this structure and needs of the society also give birth to such a city. This cycle has been broken by the participation of commercial capital, and the cycle has shifted between the city and capital. In this case, where are the users of the city, the people? This is the major question. When people come out of the focus of the buildings, the effects of the built environment on people started to be completely negative. People are leaving the metropolis for this reason or stay and feel depressed. Cities are formed within the framework of history, culture, social life of a society. Social life has started to change with the changing working model and economic policies after the Industrial Revolution. Changes in social life are always reflected in the city model and physical structure. One of the most important reasons for this is that the needs and lifestyle of the society can be met. However, after the neoliberal economic policies, while the social model remained within a certain framework, the physical change of the city continued, and it took on a purpose that would serve the commercial goals by removing the society from this focus of change. Therefore, the city has become unfamiliar to society by moving away from the needs and lifestyle and the culture of society. What to do could be, well, since we cannot change the already built environment, we can control of this transformation by preserving the existing configuration in the new places. Public spaces should be spread between the gaps of the buildings. Therefore, the people will be in more contact with the built environment. Material use on the facades that evoke nature is very important to make people feel less of this artificial environment, and spreading green areas is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Many questions, of course, we have, but I think we'll keep all the questions until the last session. We'll go to the next presentation now.
Hello everyone. Today I am gonna talking about smell memory as a placemaking subject. Placemaking is all of the bodily and mental relationships established with space which contain habits and subjectivities. Making a smell walking in one of the daily places where placemaking practices are seen creates a certain smell topography. Even if the smells are the same, some traces from the past will be different. So the smell topographies are also considered to be different and subjective. When considered in the context of architecture and urban design, questioning the subjective contribution of smell topographies to placemaking constitutes the main issue of this study. Also, awareness about the existence of a multisensory perspective rather than an environmental perception dominated by only sight. On the meaning and subjectivity of placemaking, there are some narratives. Let's look at some of them. Haydn says placemaking is like a very full suitcase, place like a very full suitcase that no one can close. And Creswell thinks place where people relate, touch, connect in one way or another, they are meaningful positions. Place is a concept that contains belonging, privacy, memory, and spirit. It differs from the three-dimensional structure of space. Place can be thought of as a set of experiences and memories produced in one's mind. Therefore, it is possible to look at the concept of placemaking as a mental phenomenon. Before discussing the smell memory, we should know the smell mechanism. The smell perception allows the body and mind to identify smells and put them into certain categories. The cognitive process emerges with the formation of smell memory. During the processing of the smell perception mechanism, the person makes a judgment according to the situation of being familiar or unfamiliar after perceiving the smell. In the context of architecture, there is a connection between smell and place memory. Palatsma says, often the most enduring memory of a place is its smell. Places are, and Ackerman says, places are often coded with smells, and the mind does this in a short time that people cannot notice. In the place, there are memory records created through senses and emotions, and they are different for every person, even if the place is the same. Perception of the smell texture of a place has social and cultural dimensions, including performed representation. Considering these social and cultural dimensions, as well as emotions and experiences, the concept of spirit of the place can be associated with the smell texture of the place. Within the scope of the study, Kadıköy Pier and Bazar region, which are among the daily living areas that are a part of a placemaking practices, were determined as the study area. This is the information table about the participant. The first participant is female and she performed a small walking on weekday. She was born and raised in a city with a sea. She doesn't smoke. She doesn't live in Kadıköy. And the second one is male and he performed on the weekend. He was born and raised in Istanbul. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't live in Kadıköy. The third one is female and she performed on weekday. She was born and raised in Istanbul. She smokes. She has been in Kadıköy for 5 years. Before these smell walks started, preliminary questions were asked to the participants. These questions are as follows. When you think of the Kadıköy Pier and the Bazar area, do you think of a characteristic smell or cluster of smells? What smells come alive in your memory? Do you think the area in question has a specific smell? Are there any smells you like or you don't like in the area in question? These are the first participant's answers. She thinks Kadıköy has characteristic smells. These are coffee, spice, and fish smells. She thinks Kadıköy Bazaar has a unique smell. She said about that, especially in the Bazaar area, I find the mixture of Turkish rakı, fish, and cigarette smells unique to this region. But this smell always reminds me of the drinking bench tables we set up as a family in my childhood. Maybe that's why I love this space. And she thinks that in general there are many smells that she doesn't like in Istanbul. Of course, these are also valid for this region, especially cigarette and exhaust smoke. The starting and ending point of the first participant's route was Kadıköy Pier. When the smells processed on the map after the walk are examined, we see the smell topography like that. At the Pier Square, we see cigarettes, seafood, and traffic smells. Then, at the main streets, through the bazaar area, we see again traffic and cigarette smells. At the beginning of the bazaar street, cigarette and clothes or textile smells are active. At the deeper areas of the bazaar, food, spice, and fish smells come alive. The second participant thinks Kadıköy's characteristic smells are sea, fish, fried oil, and fruit. He thinks that Kadıköy has a unique sea smell, different from other seasides in Istanbul. He said he always comes to Kadıköy by sea transportation for getting the smell of the sea, but he doesn't like the fried oil smell at the bazaar area. And this is the smell topography of participant 2, and the starting and ending point of the second participant's route is Kadıköy İdopier. When the smells processed on the map after the walk are examined, at the Pier Square we see food, cigarette, traffic, and sea smells. Then at the at the main streets through the bazaar, we see again cigarette and food smells, but between the streets there are smell gaps, in other words, odorless areas. At the beginning of the bazaar, mixed smells are active. At the deeper areas, fish, spice, and food smells come alive. And the third participant thinks Kadıköy has some characteristic smells like coffee, cigarettes, bagel, and fish, especially the fish market and fish restaurants has a characteristic smell. Also, coffee and book or bookstores smells constitutes the Kadıköy's unique smell. She likes coffee and book smells. So she likes Kadıköy smells, she said like that. And the starting and ending point of the third participant's route is Kadıköy Pier. At the Pier Square, we see seafood and cigarette smells. Then we see smell gaps at the main streets, odorless areas, in other words. After that, at the beginning of the bazaar, food smells are active, and in the deeper areas of the bazaar, fish, spice, and food smells come alive. We learn from this pilot study that the subjectivity of placemaking overlaps with the subjectivity of the smell memory, and it allows looking at the issue of placemaking from a different point in the context of architecture. If the participants are evaluated separately as smokers and non-smokers, it has been observed that this feature does not make a significant difference in smell topographies. In the smell topography of the participant who took a smell walk at the weekend, the category of mixed smell emerged unlike the others. Considering that what is meant by this category is the mixing of many smells that can't be distinguished from each other and create a new smell. Male participant perceives fewer types of smell than the other two female participants. Smell gaps were formed at certain points in the smell topography of each participant. These regions are generally seen around the Pier Square. It is thought that the dispersion of smells due to air circulation causes this situation. The sense of smell is at least as important in the perception of the place as the sense of sight. Not only the topographies of the smell are the object of the place, but also a subject of the placemaking concept. Because of the individual's memory.
Thank you very much for
background.
the very interesting study.
listening.
I think we have many questions and comments that we can discuss later. Now we will go to the next presentation. This is the last in our first group of presentations, and then
Dear audience, I am Seda Bostancı from Tekirdağ Namık Kemal University and head of Political Science and Public Administration Department. And I am very happy for taking a part in the International Conference of Contemporary Affairs in Architecture and Urbanism. And today I am going to talk about searching for methods in examining the appearance of urban skylines. So, urban skylines represent a memorable reference corresponding to the city by reflecting the specific identity values, general characteristics, and aesthetic qualities. The postcards in the information guides of the cities are important reference in representing the identity for historical cities. These photographs seen in the information guidebooks and postcards are attractive points for citizens and visitors of the cities. There are some skyline views of the cities that can be seen in those photographs. And also, in most of the cities, such as Istanbul and its historical peninsula, the coastal skylines, which have been conserved to a very limited context, show the image of a very limited area. But when someone views the image from the city skyscrapers, one can see what the city as a whole looks like. And you can see the chaotic view from Istanbul European side. So it is very important for protecting the historical skylines of the cities. And also all the cities have a meaningful skylines. This is also very important area. And you can see in this photographs, the urban cardiograms like the Istanbul skylines. There are various research areas on skylines and silhouette like protection of historical urban skylines, facade analysis, feature models in urban three-dimensional appearances, high building policies, and view management. Urban skylines also provide the best visual representation to observe the phenomenon of urban transformation and change. The aim of this study is to form a basis for a multi-component urban skyline assessment model that includes formal and social psychological dimensions by grouping the methodologies of studies on urban skylines. So we have some methods, and in the methods, we have grouped these methods as presentation, and also from more than 10 years, I am studying for all these methods. So I am always finding some solution for protecting the urban skylines. So in the first one, some descriptive studies for analyzing aesthetic quality of urban skylines. These are the studies made by understanding the opinion of the respondents for urban skylines, and semantic differential for urban skyline aesthetic analysis, cognitive studies for urban skylines. And in the second one, there are some mathematical, statistical, and computer-based studies for analyzing the aesthetic quality of urban skylines. These are the information entropy for evaluation of urban skylines, JS modeling urban skylines, space syntax analysis for urban skyline, and fractal geometry for urban skylines. And the studies made by understanding the opinions of the respondents of urban skylines. Generally, in aesthetic evaluation studies, city views are asked to be rated by the respondents. In these approaches, the participants can directly ask how they like the visual analysis, and as well as their opinions are examined with experimental approaches and statistical techniques based on these questionnaires. So, semantic differential for urban skyline aesthetic analysis, adjective pairs are used together with the semantic differential method. As an example of adjective pairs depending on aesthetic factors, contrasts such as pleasant, boring, different, habitual, meaningful, meaningless, interesting, not interesting, and different, monotonous. A schematic differential scale using the adjective pairs for evaluation the aesthetic dimensions of urban skylines used in some of the studies. And also we make some cognitive studies for urban skylines, and we draw some pictures how they remember the skyline for our architectural students. And generally, in cognitive studies related to urban design, spatial motion, and environmental interactive issues come to mind, like cognitive mapping and wayfinding, and also how the image created by the skylines of historical cities can be explained by drawing. The basic differences between the cognitive mapping techniques and the cognitive perception and the semantic displays of skyline can be discussed through this experimental approach. This study investigated the effects of cognitive features of urban skylines in visual thinking system. And also Stephen Wilshire is very important about how in the mind the skyline can be viewed. And he is a very important example. You can also make some researches about him. And also this is my PhD thesis area as information entropy for evaluation urban skyline. And also you can see some definitions about entropy here, but I try to explain in a very limited process. So entropy has two main definitions within the fields of probability theory and thermodynamic laws together with statistics. Aesthetic evaluation is being developed in the intersection of objectivity and subjectivity. In current studies being conducted on issues of urban design and aesthetics, the use of mathematical and computer-based methods have mounting importance. Using objective methods for aesthetic evaluation is included in the fields of theory and application as new concepts. These methods used in the aesthetic evaluation of the city involve approaches in relation with the formation of the urban form in different scales. So we use entropy also in thermodynamic way, as you can maybe think about the heat islands of the cities, like the mapping and environmental sustainability. And on the other hand, we can use the statistics and probability theory for entropy. And in this part, we saw the entropy related to information theory as spatial organization or urban design in urban aesthetics. There are three steps for the application of entropy method to aesthetic evaluation in urban design, skyline scale. These are finding the analyzable data. This is the skyline photographs and the analytic process of skylines for diversity and clarity, the mathematical evaluation from coding data for finding the entropy value. And you can see these are the schematic explanation of entropy method for skyline evaluation. And also this method can be taken to the GIS modeling. And now we are talking about GIS for modeling urban skylines. And also I have all the references in my full paper, you can find them. And GIS-based techniques displays buildings in the third dimension, thus three-dimensional images of cities such as Google Earth can be displayed together with their morphology. These techniques are applied with innovative approach, especially in urban skyline studies on high buildings. GIS and entropy are coordinated to validate the measurability of skyline as its temporal transformation. So you can see how we relate the entropy and GIS methodology. And in this one, also, we make the skylines for GIS modeling in this schematic explanation. And this is the entropy formula. And these are the GIS techniques, some of the drawings we made. And then we found the change of aesthetic values within the years, as you can see. And space syntax analysis for urban skylines. Space syntax, which is Among the objective methods considered, the aesthetic evaluation of the city is an interactive approach that determines the relations between external influences that produce forms of social forces. Space syntax is also applied to urban GIS studies. This method also can make a certain evaluation on the effects of urban skylines. And also with fractal geometry for our skyline analysis. So various computer programs have been developed for fractal dimension measurements and model proposals. Among this, HARFA program is used to measure the visual richness of images. HARFA means Compatible Fractal Image Analyzer. Visual data are measured according to fractal parameters and numerical values are obtained from fractal terms. So for conclusions, studies on urban skylines provide important information on the transformation process of the cities. In this process, various drawbacks of applying the interpretation methods created by using the fields of engineering sciences and physics in urban design may arise. Generally, as discussed here, in the method processes, numerical models of visual scan can be produced with various techniques. This study shows so many various approaches exist regarding urban skylines that can only be considered as a symbolic image of a city. These studies will gradually develop into a more integrated urban skyline assessment model by establishing connections with each other and funding of the fields such as artificial intelligence and fuzzy logic. Apart from all methods, preserving the aesthetic values of urban skylines depends on the ability of city manager to claim this process. At the same time, a positive public opinion can be created in this area if the new generation mobile phone applications can attract more attentions of citizens regarding urban skylines are developed. Benefiting from the models mentioned here in order to protect the skylines in the historical and new development areas in the aesthetic boards of the municipalities can produce very effective results. So before the project, urban skyline effects can be modeled before a project is realized like a simulation. This may be an opportunity for some early interventions. And thank you for
Thank you very much for the presentations. Amazing papers, actually, and we have received many comments in the chat. So let me start by discussing what came up in the chats. Well, we'll start with the last paper. We have a comment that we didn't find comparative analysis between the three methods that's used, so we can better understand the effect on the urban skyline. Can you elaborate on that and tell us when you use the different methods to assess the skylines, which one you found the more effective and more informative, and how decisions are taken based on the results?
Usually in Istanbul, the skyline is a very important problem because there are some laws about protecting the skyline, like Londra view management, but we try to find some different methods because the skyline analyses have a kind of aesthetic evaluation, so it's also related to perception and cognition, and also how the people feel about the skylines. But on the other hand, there is a formative aesthetic criteria, so counting them with some methodologies is an important field of this study. So I think in the end, maybe the cognitive studies which the students draw how they remember the images in the cognitive ones. And the entropy study is the objective methodology for finding an aesthetic value. So maybe combination of two, one is from the opinions of the people, how they connect with the skyline, and in the second one, the mathematical method as entropy approach. I think two of the combination of them will be better for analyzing the aesthetic skylines, because when we connect with GIS and entropy method connect with each other. So by the layers, we can find some relations when we take a photograph or we make a visual analysis.
Okay, so you suggest combining subjective and objective methods so that we reach better understanding and more comprehensive understanding of the situation. My question as related to this issue is which skyline? Because I love the city of Istanbul. I visited several times, but you see the city from different points of view. You see the city from the sea, you see it from the other side, you see it from the back, you see the skyline from different points. So which point of view do you consider when you do your analysis?
In Karaköy, taking a photo from the historical peninsula, the Haliç site is the better for understanding the old Istanbul skyline. And also there are some Bosphorus villages like Yeniköy and the others, their facades. They are famous with skyline in the seaside with facades. But Istanbul is very interesting. When looking in the seaside, the skylines of some areas are very attractive, but when you look to the Maslak axis or Beykoz areas, it is very mass and very high buildings. But also there are some laws for protecting Bosphorus in the metropolitan municipality, but also there are some other laws. So the Maslak ask became like that by using the tourism law. Because of that, the high-rise buildings appears.
Okay, thank you very much. The second question is about the smell topography paper, which is very interesting paper, but as the comment in the chat says, the number of participants is very small. You have only 3 informants. I was hoping that maybe you have a large number of informants for quantitative data, and then you can have some focused interviews or walk through with other participants so that you can understand their feelings, maybe 3 to 5. I think it's a very interesting, it brings to mind our old part of Islamic Cairo here, Al-Azhar and Khan al-Khalili, where the smell is really a very important part of the experience in these historical places, especially. So what is your reaction about the number of participants?
Yeah, you are right. Actually, I was predicting that this question would come. Of course, not enough, but this was a pilot study. You can think of it as a pilot study of a larger study designed as a qualitative research. Probably it would be good in terms of results if it was designed as a qualitative study with maybe 15 participants. However, generating the smell topographies as the main output of the study is, of course, more difficult according to the number of participants, because of the smell topography. The smell topographies are the representation, actually. Yes. And so maybe it's difficult for 15 participants to constitute.
Yes, it would be difficult if you have to walk with each one of them and interview them. But I have an idea, maybe you can consider, is to use a mobile application that you can give to the informants, and they can go around and make the selections based on certain locations, and then the GPS will tell you where did they make these selections and what were the, so you can make it an online questionnaire application on the mobile, so that they can take it around and use it as a tool for data collection. And I think that will provide you with large amount of information in an easy and exciting way for people to use their mobiles. And then you can analyze this smell topography and then select some of the informants for in-depth interview or walkthrough with them in the site and get their feelings about their smell assessment. I think it's a very interesting study, and it's worth expanding and exploring more as the comment suggests.
You're right. Thank you.
I think it's a very interesting study. Okay, do we have other questions from the audience? The floor is open for questions, comments, suggestions, inquiries.
Yes, Dr.
Yes, please go ahead.
I have a question for Dr. Hussaina. I think your paper should be, I ask the questionnaire. Your questionnaire should be allowed to include landscape furniture like shading, like cycle park, sitting area, because this all of this have a direct affection on environmental quality. Your questionnaire just focus on something like flower or something like this, but I think the landscape furniture is urgent to involve it in your paper. This is my suggestion.
Any reply or feedback?
I'm so sorry, Mr. Yasser. Thank you, Mr. Mohammed, for the advice. But in my presentation, it was about a case study with limited features, physical features related to outdoor spaces. But I'm so thankful for the advice. Maybe I will consider it in future studies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your reply. Other comments or questions? Any comments?
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Islam. No, since it was very interesting articles, bringing the discussion from sensation, perception, cognition,
yes,
almost in different sense of smelling, sense of visioning, and which is very important that quietly a lot we are forgetting this, that we have these senses sometimes to consider. Thank you very much. It was very interesting articles and research.
Dr. Muhammad, do you have other questions? Yes, please.
I don't know if you mean for your paper add smell for all spaces, or you speak about specific space. Already we have smell in space beside the sea, beside the food court, beside something like this. But as a joke, we just smell carpet pollution. You should to add smell for all space, all spaces we have.
I think this question is for Seda. Do you
yes,
have
proceed.
comment?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I couldn't hear the question. Please.
Okay, no problem. I ask, do you mean in your paper to add smell for all spaces we have? or for specific spaces, because we already have smell in spaces beside the sea, beside the food court, beside.
Yeah, I don't, Dr. Mohammed, I don't think she's just adding smell. She's assessing and monitoring the topography of the smell in the places. I don't know if you have, do you have any comment about this, Seda?
Actually, a route, there is a route in Kadıköy, and the route, the starting point is the PR Square and the Bazaar area. This is my field study, and I decided it. So the participants performed a small walk in this route. The route is decision by me. Actually, maybe the question is about the field choice. This study can be done for many places, but I live in Istanbul and I conducted the field study in this city. If we come to the question of why at Kadıköy, maybe the question is about that.
Yes.
Kadıköy has an important place in Istanbul's memory. It is a region where non-Muslims lived in the past and has a unique architectural texture. The selected region contains various shopping places and socializing spaces. So it is thought to enrich the smell topographies, I think. So I choose this region.
Yes, I think if you apply this research on Istanbul, the Great Bazaar and the Egyptian Bazaar and this area, I think it will be fascinating study. And very, very interesting. Keep on doing it. I think it's a good start.
Yeah, maybe a lot of places in Istanbul for this performing.
Yeah.
Thank
thank you all very much. If we have final comment before we move to the next group of papers. Any final comment?
Thank you. Now we have 1 minute to start the next session, next panel, in fact.
Yes, yes. Okay, so shall we start the next presentations? All right. I think in this session we have one missing paper or one missing presentation.
Yes, Professor, exactly. Even I couldn't see in the list of audience and no video from the audience.
No video, yes. Is the author available, Dr. Carlos?
No, I don't think so. I couldn't see.
No. Okay, so we'll move to the next presentation, the awareness level by Dr. Rafika Korti. Is she available? No? Anyone available for the
second author, maybe?
Dr. Nejima, Dr. Suad Sasi. I don't see anyone available, but we have the presentation, so I think we can play. We can share the presentation and present it to the audience. Yeah. Okay, so let's do that.
Good evening, everyone. Our research titled "The Awareness Level as a Single Known Condition for the Citizen Involvement Level in Urban Actions." In this research, we will study the citizen involvement indices related to the level of awareness based on Algerian society case, which is a web city. Our work includes two main parts. The first one is the theoretical part. It consists of definitions of the basic concepts of our research, which is developed in the full paper. You can consult all the details in the full paper later. Due to time constraints, we will present the practical part only. So first of all, and based on the previous scholars, we found a strong link between the citizen awareness level and the involvement effectivity. We assume that the more awareness of citizens, the more eligible their participation will be. Likewise, based on many researchers, we found that the awareness level scale contains 4 levels. The first one is level of knowledge and competence. The second one is level of commitment and responsibility toward the community. The third one, level of readiness to collaborate with other stakeholders. The fourth one, level of willingness to get involved in the future. About the sample and procedure, this study was conducted in February and March 2019, and the data were collected with one sample size of 267 participants living in Louet City. We translated the scale criteria for awareness level of citizens in a survey, which contains 2 types of closed questions. We have also developed a semi-structured questionnaire consists of 4 sections, and each section containing a group of questions or items. About the results, the analysis and interpretation of the data in this research work are made by the SPSS software, which offers a number of graphs. So the result for the first level. We remark that 85% of citizens said that they have some knowledge about the right to participate. For the second level in the scale, the most of citizens said that they feel responsible for their community. For the third level in the scale, also the most of citizens said that they are always ready to collaborate with other stakeholders by any kind of collaboration they can offer. For the last level, the results said that 89% of citizens wish to get involved in the future actions. Finally, this high level of awareness is due to several reasons. We mentioned some. The first one, we know that the Algerian policy, which dedicated an annual budget of more than 789 billion Algerian dinars to education sector. In addition, Algeria adopts the principle of a free education, which enables about 4 million Algerians to learn. It guarantees the provision of all necessities for more than 52% of the students, including free books, meals, and other support. We know also that the most of Louet citizens are born and enlarged there, and have many memories. They are distinguished by their kindness and their generosity and attachment to each other. So these are the factors which explain the results of the figure above. For more discussion and conclusions and recommendation, you can consult the full paper. Thank you for your attention.
Unfortunately, we don't have the authors here to discuss the paper. I think many issues needed to be clarified with them. Anyhow, now we will present the last paper, and
so my name is Diva and I'm from University of
is
Indonesia.
Dr. Diva is here. Any one of the presenters available? Hello, can you hear me?
I cannot find them. Yes, Rafika Korti has a networking problem.
Okay.
Friend, but we will see.
Okay, so we will run the presentation anyhow, and I hope they can join us for discussion. Okay.
Khalifa, and today I am, on my behalf of my co-writer, will present to you the paper that titled "The Roles of Urban Park Elements in Creating Beautiful Place for the Visually Impaired." So starting from the introduction first, beauty is important. Studies show that a beautiful city increases the well-being of the city's occupants. Investing beauty in one city is the same as investing a happier future of the occupants. Burchard in 1965 linked beauty in an urban environment with physical elements such as the weather, the sky, the lakes, the riverbanks, the parks, and the squares. And Gottman in 2017 refers urban beauty, including attractive and climatologically pleasant surroundings with river-type environments and a good landscaping. Beauty is often judged visually. It is seen as a quality that is contained in an appealing object. But the judgment of beauty does not only focus on the seen object itself, but also determined by the subjective quality one has in mind. In this paper, we try to portray beauty from the mind of people with visual impairment by understanding the notion of beauty that is sensed and experienced by the people with visual impairment. It could convey further values and meaning that is produced by universal design. So this is the literature review for blind and their sense. So according to Good in 2010, individuals with visual impairment process information from different sensorial inputs to construct an image of their inhibited space. They incorporated information from the sense of hearing, sense of touch, smell, and taste. From the sense of hearing, it can provide an essential awareness of events beyond their immediate personal space. And from the sense of touch, they can feel the pressure, the vibration, the temperature, or discomfort produced by the receptor nerve in the skin. And from the sense of smell, they can characterize the places or the people or the familiar places that they remember. And so, according to Palasma in 2012, architecture experience is a multisensory experience. The quality of a space, its elements and scale are measured equally by the eyes, the ears, the nose, the skin, the tongue, the bones, and the muscles. Not only does it involve vision or the five senses in general, but architecture also involves several sensory experiences that interact with each other. So, beauty and judgment of beauty. Beauty is a quality or a state that is perceived as pleasing and attractive in our minds. It is subjective to one's way of seeing and partly depends objectively on what is seen. According to Montgomery in 2013, studies prove that human like the landscape that feature broad meadows with a few trees and shrubs in the near distance, with bodies of still water directly in view. This view considered as a beautiful landscape. This picture in a slide is a beautiful landscape that is described by Montgomery in 2013. And so this is the literature review about the aesthetic qualities in universal design. When designing for the disabled, Pauline in 2009 detects that aesthetic qualities usually are not being considered. It is often a product of an afterthought and added cosmetic treatment of an already resolved and acceptable design. In the design industry, it has been an established model that accessible products had a dominant orthopedic or hospital-looking appearance with a strong for the disabled stigma attached to them. Borders contends that accessible design does not need to look for the disabled. She states that by giving aesthetic quality and functionality equal attention, it could palliate the current division between able and the disabled. And so to convey a beautiful place for the visual impairment, we conducted a qualitative study in a task-oriented format in which the participants are required to explore the park and find their favorite place. The participants of this study is 5 blind students with 3 low vision students. It took place in Suropati Park, which is a park in Jakarta, where it features broad meadows and few shrubs and some trees and some fountain, which mimics the landscape that we previously discussed. So participants required to explore the park and find their favorite place. When they find their favorite place, they needed to describe the place and reasons for choosing their preferred point. So we asked them some question that is not directly stating that the place is beautiful, but instead they describe that place. These are the result when describing their favorite place. 5 from the 8 participants use the word beautiful as an adjective to express their opinion about the space. So some of them say that their favorite place is good and it is beautiful, and so that's why they like the place. And some of them say that the place is beautiful because they can feel the cool breeze and the shady trees, the warmth of the sun, and they can see the grass, the trees, and the fountain because like they can hear the sound, the fountain sound. And some of them say that they like the place because it features the smell of the grass. And one participant say that they like the place because it has the smell of the fountain, and also he said that the place will be better if it incorporated the smell of the flowers. These are the picture of the 4 points that is chosen as their favorite place. We can conclude that these places look very similar with some shady trees, and from this point we can feel the cool breeze and the cool weather, and they can smell the fountain smell, and they can hear the sound of the fountain. So blind individual attach the beautiful space with the quality of the sound, the tactile qualities, and the smell qualities that gives them a delightful feelings. In the park, the cool atmosphere, the sound of the fountain, and the smell of the park gives them a delightful feeling. And so these spatial elements are considered to play the roles in shaping their perception of a beautiful space. The cool atmosphere are the result of the shady trees and the wind that blows to them, and the sound of the fountain are the sound from the combination of the heavily stream water and the splashing water that they hear. And also the smell of the park are the combination of the smell of the flower, the smell of the grass, and the smell of the fountain that they smell. And so to construct a beautiful place for the people with visual impairment, as well as increasing their well-being as part of the city occupants, it is suggested that we make a universal design that is incorporated the sense of hearing, sense of touch, and sense of smell. So that's all. Thank you very much for listening, and stay safe.
Well, thank you very much for the interesting presentation and interesting topic also. Do we have any of the presenters available with us?
Yes, dear Viva is asked the third, paper, the author of the third paper.
Okay.
The one.
This is Mrs. Diva available. Yes, I can see her, but she is muted. She can, please unmute your microphone. I don't think we can comment on the second unless we have any of the presenters available. The first one, we didn't have the video.
No, we don't have.
And the second is not available. We don't have any of.
Not yet.
Okay, so we have one question for the third presentation or the third paper. The question was, what kind of universal design features are available in the park, or this is a park that is not intended for the visually impaired people?
Yeah, so the park were actually not designed for the universal design. They don't have the characteristic for the universal design, but when we experiment it with the blind students, it actually the features such as the sound, the tactile features, and the smell features, it's actually it has a possibility to be designed. So it actually match to the we can use that feature to design a universal space for them. So at that time, there were actually no universal design features. But
I think
the paper, yeah,
I think that would be a very good outcome of the paper, is that you propose adaptation of an existing park for the blind people or the visually impaired, or a new specialized park for the visually impaired, and the people who can see will be their guests, but it's mainly done for them. You can also include other disabilities, maybe hearing impaired, maybe physically impaired, physically challenged. So maybe the park itself will be mainly for them, and then other people can join them in the park. Or you can suggest adapting existing park to accommodate their needs based on your research. I think it's a very genuine and touching research.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you to, let's say, for your comments. It was also interesting because it came the question in my mind that proposal is for the developed urban context or for the new development. And then Dr. Yasser, Professor Yasser very clearly recommended to consider even the content of the research as well. Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, very good study, and I think that it can be beneficial for the municipalities and the parks managers and so forth. Do we
thank
have?
You very much.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the audience? Any comments from anyone? Okay, if we don't have specific comments on the last papers, I think we can make general comments on the. Anyone has comments? Okay. I think we can make general comments on the whole session. Nejima, do you have You want to say something? You have a
Yes.
raised hand.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. I just joined because we had a networking problem, me and my co-authors, Rafiqa Korti. That's why.
Okay.
So if you have any question about the YouTube presentation for my co-author, I'm here because
that was the second presentation that we had this session. I think we need, can you give us a brief by yourself, because the presentation was not very clear. What did it mean and what did it intend to achieve?
Yes, we intended to do a work about the level of awareness in society of Lued, so we can see if there is a high level of awareness in the urban actions. Means that the participation of people in actions in urban actions depend on their awareness about how can they do participate, or at what level can they do participate. So this is the thing that we, I'm sorry, I hope you are hearing me.
Yes,
because,
yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Hello?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Yes,
Hello?
we can. Yes, we can hear you. You left, now you left. I think she has internet problems. But okay, that clarified a little bit the presentation. It was not clear from the PowerPoint what exactly was the target of the presentation. Yeah. But we still have time if anyone wants to expand on their papers or comments on any paper or other papers. Oh,
Hello?
she's back. I think she's back.
Yes, I'm back.
Yes, yes, we can
I'm
see you now.
very sorry about this because
No
today
problem.
is
No
a
problem.
very specific day in Algeria, so we have problems.
Yes, technology is never perfect. Go ahead.
So I was saying that we intended to assess the level of awareness depending on the level of knowing what people can do and what people can involve in urban actions. So we had we did an assess about it, and we collected the data, and we confirmed that this level of awareness is very low because people, they don't think that they have the right to have actions. Then the people that don't know that they have this right to impact their reality, their urban reality in Algeria, and they think that it is only monopolized by the authorities to do all the actions. People or simple citizen don't think that he have this power to impact urban action and urban reality. This is the fact. Even when we ask if they want to be involved, they have this engagement and this this willingness to be engaged in urban actions, but they don't think that they have the right, and they don't know what are the tools that can be applied to support this participation and this involvement in
can you give us examples? What tools or mechanisms of participation do they have and they don't know about?
For example, we have the urban action assess. Means that when we do any urban before we do any urban action in Algeria, for example, the authorities, when they plan this action, before they put it into reality, they do the assess and wait period for a feedback from citizens. There is no feedback from citizens because they don't even know about this, and they don't even know that there is this period when they can comment, they can involve and give their own opinions about these actions.
But is there a good announcement about
this? This is the very big problem. the information and the canal of information between citizen and also or local authorities, there is
Yes.
no canal of information. And even when there is a canal, that there is very low flow of information. So people, there is no connections. This is a very big problem between
Yes,
in Algeria. This is a very big problem. And when people do know about it, they give their feedback, but they don't have the faith to say yes, my feedback will be taken into account. So my opinion will be I don't know, will be a base for these
will not be
actions.
used. Yes,
exactly. They
it's the
totally,
usual mistrust between citizen and government.
This mistrust is creating a sort of misbelonging of people. They don't feel they belong to their urban reality. They say that it's not my reality, it's not my creation. I am not involved in this, and I don't have the right to be involved. That is the very big problem in Algeria.
It's a big
getting,
problem in, all over the world, in many countries.
Yes, but there is an alternative for this. There is a very big alternative. We can do better, because regaining this trust between people and their elected people, because they are elected, is the very big problem. And I'm so sorry, because my co-author didn't have a network problem. That's why she didn't get in.
I think you did a good job covering for her.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank
you. About this point, actually, last year I was visiting the Czech Republic, or the year before the pandemic, and in the city of Prague, in the Union of Planners and Architects, they have a large exhibition hall. In this hall, they present all the projects that the municipality intends to build in the city. And they have descriptions and models and drawings, and it's open for the public to visit and give comments and give opinions about the projects that they think will affect their homes and their assets and their work and their well-being in the city. So I think that dissemination of information and getting feedback from people might be written on papers, but actually to do it right and to be enthusiastic about knowing what people think, it requires a lot of effort and a lot of involvement from the governments and the municipalities. Thank you for raising this important topic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we are now approaching the wrap-up session for all the 2 sessions that we have of papers. So if anyone has anything, wants to add or comment or discuss, please go ahead. Otherwise, we'll give you a few more minutes to rest between the sessions as courtesy of our group. I don't see any raised hands. I don't see any anyone trying to speak. I think everyone is hosted. They need to get some coffee and walk around for a while. So I think we will conclude this session. I want to thank you all for the wonderful presentations and wonderful topics that you brought to us. I think many topics related to the human perception are actually introduced and discussed, and you opened for us new venues. I think the Skyline topic is very important for Cairo. The Nile skyline is very, very important. The smell, the visually impaired, the public participation. I think all the papers were magnificent and interesting. Thank you all, and I will leave the floor for Roshan to wrap up the session.
Thank you very much, dear Professor Yasser, to accept our invitation and for your insightful comments.
Thank you.
The participants and the audience and authors. I would be very pleased to also introduce. Thank you very much, Dr. Yasser.
Thank you.
I would also now introduce Dr. Islam Al-Hunaimi. Hope he had a technical problem.
He still have 15 minutes.
Yes. But
give him, he still has, he's not here. He still has 15 minutes to prepare.
Yeah,
I still have a problem.
Technical problem.
Okay.
I want to make sure that he
Yes. Hi, Dr. Islam. How are you?
اهلا دكتور. How are you?
اهلا بك. How's Bahrain?
الحمد لله يا فندم كله تمام.
الحمد لله.
More than welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much. I visited Bahrain before several years ago and enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Yes, we heard a lot about you, Dr. Professor, and it's a great honor to have you today. And
thank you. Thank you very much, Dr.
Alhamdulillah. One of the achievements today to meet you, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you, Habibi. Thank you very much.
الله يبارك في حضرتك.
So it is very nice, Dr. Islam, to hear your voice.
Yeah.
I know.
One notice, please. I will. Okay.
Dr. Islam, you have
Dr.
echo.
Sana, now I'm using my mobile when I'm talking, but from the computer I cannot use it. So what I will do, the maximum that I can do, I will my small presentation I can do it from my computer, and I will talk from the mobile. I apologize for this technical, as a Professor Yasser mentioned a few minutes ago.
Your, I mean, the last effort to participate and to be with us. Thank you very much.
Allah Zakir, thank you very much.
Yasser is always mentioning, yes, he was mentioning that, yes, online issues have this problem. Yes, Dr. If you want to deliver your final notes, if you have any, then we will start.
We will start 2 o'clock, right? Correct?
Yes, we will start at 2, then to make sure whether even the author or also are with us even.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Concetta, Dr. Concetta as the co-chair, she is not still with us. We will see. Yes, Dr. Yasser, thank you again once more. Everything was very good, very perfect, very professionally. And
thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear audience, we will start within less than 10 minutes. Dr. Islam, is there any news from Tabolete?
I'm trying just to upload my file first, Professor Roxana, okay?
Thank you very much. Keep your time, we have time. We can...
I have support. You remember him?
Yes.
Hello. لازم على الموبايل. Yes. Okay.
طيب هو دلوقتي واقف شير.
يعني واقف شير؟
واقف شير.
وقفنا.
Dr. Islam, do you still have Ranjis في البحرين?
Yes, Professor. Yes, still have it.
Say hi to him, please.
My pleasure, Professor.
I know him from a long time ago. We met in several conferences around the world.
Inshallah. Great honor, Doctor. Inshallah.
Thank you. Do you know the trick about the sound?
Not yet, Doctor.
When you start the video, there is on the right side, the drop-down menu. When you share, there is an item about share sound, and this is very important because yesterday many of the videos did not work.
Yes, but now you know, Professor Yasser, that I have a problem. I'm using my computer just to show and my mobile to talk. This is internal problems from my from my system, you know, the Professor.
Okay. But when you share the video, you will share the video with sound from the computer.
Yeah, I hope so. Inshallah, I will try.
Yeah, try it now.
Yeah, I can't. Yes, Muhammad Sheikh. بص هنا في مصور. لا مش عايزه فين. شايف ده فين سنسن.
Don't worry, dear Zelal. We didn't start yet the session since we have 5 minutes.
I'm just testing.
If you play, Professor, we will check. I think there should be play with sound. There is no sound yet.
I cannot upload from my computer as well. Only the video can work, but without sound as well.
Mm-hmm. I will play with you. Don't worry, I am supporting you. I will play the videos. In the down part, I think there is the part to play the video with sound, if I'm not wrong.
No, we failed. It's not working from my side at all. We tried to do it in different way, but it's not working at all.
Okay, it's fine. I will play the video of the authors. Professor, can you deliver also your keynote speech? Is it going to be alive, or there will be a problem since?
No, it will not work, Surfer. I will use it from my PowerPoint directly. Is it okay?
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay. I'm sorry. Really, I apologize.
So thank you. Even from morning, you inform us. It happened, no worry. Within 2 minutes, I will start. Dr. Conchetta Tabulete, I am wondering, she is in.
Dr. Conchetta, she replied to me that she will be here, but
From the side, since she has also paper presentation. Dr. Evren, yes, Duygu Yildiz. Not yet. And dear Sandra Racha.
she should be here. As I understand. I will contact her, Sandra.
Thank you. Okay, I will start, dear authors. I am very glad to introduce, to be here with you. And I want to introduce Professor Dr. Islam Al-Ghunaimi, who is going to be the session chair of this panel related to the sustainability and urban design phenomenology. Professor Islam is coming from University of Bahrain, College of Engineering, Department of Architecture and Interior Design. It will be co-chaired the session with Dr. Konketa Tavalote. I hope she can join us. Yes, dear Professor Islam, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sana. It's my great pleasure to be in the 4th International Conference, which is really mean a lot for me. Because now this is the 4th year for me to join with a wonderful group. And then let me say that really I'm very proud of the performance happened with this conference. And from my point of view, this conference has with his activities has a lot of positive impact upon researchers and as well for the academics. My great pleasure to be today. And really I acknowledge your kind invitation to be with you as a keynote speaker and moderator for my pleasure, and as well here to help. I had the plan to help, but it seems that I create a problem so far. I would like to apologize for this unpredictable issues. In fact, it is this session, it will talk about sustainability and urban design phenomenology. In fact, when we have from the beginning to discuss about this issue, it came to my mind that we have a certain circumstances according to the COVID issues, and to how far this COVID impacts our life, especially with that all of us, we don't know how can we do and where and when and so on. A lot of question mark came to our mind as an architect and urban designers to how can we deal with this, especially that most of the countries has a problem of looking down. And if you allow me, I would like to share with you, let us say a point, a lot of let us say, yes, this one I would like to share it. I don't, yes, I hope the PowerPoint is there. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the point that I would like to share with you today is about that to how far we can adapt our open spaces according to this COVID or this unknown enemy or this hidden enemy, and to how far we can put in our considerations in future to design our spaces in resilience wise. Then it is now here in I would like to show for you here this is a regular way of thinking about how can we design open spaces. We regularly, when we have our plan to design the open spaces, we regularly put some criteria about variables, about constants, and so on. But in fact, all of this, it become like some with the history now, according to this COVID. And for example, that if we are talking about constant aspects and variable aspects, it came to us a new vision, which is how to deal with the open spaces according to WHO outlines about that social distance and so on. So I talk about today about the open spaces that I need to talk about it today is to design the open spaces. Design open spaces, especially if we talk about that, to how far the impact of using the open spaces for a term of social interacting and so on. Most of when we go to our work or go stay at home and so on, we have at weekend, we have sometimes to go to have a fresh air, to social gathering and so on. But all of this, it become like a new way of thinking, that how can we adapt our open spaces or to remanage our open spaces, especially that in many of the countries went for the lockdown, and this lockdown occupied most of the people at home in different time, especially within the open times, weekend or after finish the work of all of us. Now we have no time to go for outdoor spaces because we are afraid of the infections, and how can we transfer infections to each other. So this has become like a challenge for designers. We can see here, for example, that we have different places we move and walk, and this like streets, park, garden, and so on. All of this give us a sense of fearing to do with open space, because we don't know how to deal with these open spaces. And as well, many of the points came that we have to use mask, but is this mask is enough? No, should be with social distance. So more, how can you touch? How can you move hand? If this place is was there a hazard here, or so on and so on. So cities has to think about a new way of dealing. You know, most of the cities adapt itself according to circumstances. Yani just calling for the cholera pandemics and many issues happened. Cities adapted themselves, and they changed it. Some feature had been changed, some constraint had been changed. But from our side, how can we modify our cities? How can we deal with this? Especially that there were no clear guidelines in the urban rules or regulation and so on about dealing with open spaces, respecting this COVID or social distance and so on. It came to our mind that when we planned this presentation, the COVID had been spread all over the world in a very, very short time. And it occupied and controlled all the points of activities. So that means that when we deal with these issues, that we have to consider again that we are in a small world, that there is interacting between all world spaces. And unfortunately, we can see in these photos in front of you some places like Tour Eiffel in Paris. This is one of the most interesting parts of the tourism. No one there. It's just a few people, because even lockdown or not allowing people to come from outside and so on. This has become a crisis for the people as well as for the social interacting. We can see most of the faces with masks and so on, because this has happened as well for these spaces. For the commercial spaces or small business, most of the business become at home now. So it moves for a certain or a different way of thinking. And many of the small business had been affected from this pandemic. Now, about WHO and some, let's say, notes coming that we have to deal with open spaces according to the UK standard here. It should be in different stages. Stage 1 with mitigations, stage 2 restricting functions, stage 3 phase of reopening again, and then phase 5 return to a full operating. This is theoretically it's good, but according to the waves, and every day we hear about waves and so on, but we will never stay at home, because this is human aspects, and this is human needs to go to social interacting and so on. We cannot be occupied. So we deal with open spaces regularly in the garden. It's or public or plazas or public spaces. There is softscape and hardscape. From these points, we try to emphasize about this point, how far we can adapt or manage our open spaces according to the design elements of outdoor space elements. I bring example from Saudi Arabia. It is here in the eastern provision of Saudi Arabia in Al Khobar city. They have a large promenade, and the Saudi Arabians that started to deal with this, with these stages and targeting to open as a phase number 4. For example, here this promenade, it is created in 1947 and had been designed in a well-designed matching with the rigorous situations. And if we look to this, it's amazing place. But after looking down, should we stop or should we? Sorry. Okay. Should we lose all of this opportunity? It is not. It's not fair. So why it's not fair? Because, for example, it has a lot of investment. For example, it exceeds 26 million American dollars, and it's about 4,000 hectares. For example, do you believe that we should look down here for a long time, especially that after this COVID-19, municipality have a lot of debates about how can we deal this, especially with the modification happened according to this COVID. Here we can see some photos, and all of these photos, no people there, and so on, which has become again a disaster from the social wise or social dimensions. So here we would like to call for re-examine the design. The point here that we have to put in consideration that all of these spatial spaces should we will not re-examine, not to redesign it again, but how we need to deal with it. We have to match with this point. But how can we come in that basis? That we have to put considerations in our mind. Number one, we need to modify or rechecking about the rules and regulations, especially with the social distance. So we have the guidelines we have to put in the regulation when we design any park. And in terms of this social distance, we should be there. And about the structure, again, for this soft and hardscape, we have this structure like a benches and sitting area. There is for water, potable water, or this water fountain, or all of these elements should be careful when we design, especially when we go for selecting the material of having these seats or this water and this, for example, this litter bins and so on. All of the hardscape elements, we have to reconsider designing this part. Again, we have, for example, these places for the kids to play, these outdoor spaces. Selecting the material here, it should be reconsidered again. We have some guidelines or let's say measure recommendation in terms of smart managing for open spaces and smart part of using all the tools in restaurant, in money machines, and all of these points. I would like to this go quickly because I have a very limited time, but it seems that time is not with me. That I will go for this one. Here we have an application to use this Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi here, in terms of, we have examples, they call it Tawkalna, or to manage this and another software, which is Be Aware. This has been applied in Bahrain, and the other way has been applied in Saudi Arabia. Major point of this software, it depends on to detect and to manage the using the open spaces within the connection, or for people to manage and to control the movement, not restrict movement, but to manage the moving. And it's appear to how far there is an infection there, infection here, and give you alarm if you come here or come there. So these notes should be in a digital wise. We assume that could be like a screen to control the movement and so on. This is to summarize and to end up with this point. We recommend to have a smart way of thinking while we're dealing our open spaces. And thank you very much for your attending and listening this presentations. I would like to stop sharing from my part And I hope that my colleague, I don't know, she is here. Yes, welcome.
Hi, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you.
I apologize because I will depend on you to share the file. Really, thank you for supporting me. Okay.
No problem, no problem. Welcome everyone to our session, and I'm Concetta Tavoletta, PhD in Architectural Design and adjunct professor, and I'm an honor to be a co-chair with Professor Islam Egonami, and now I share my screen. Wait only a moment. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, it is clear. Thank you.
Okay, I'm the first.
Hello everyone, I'm Tavoletta, PhD in Architectural Design and adjunct professor to the University of Campania in Italy. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of the conference. I'm really happy to be able to share with you my research focus on Mediterranean project made by Gio Ponti, Luigi Cosenza, and Bernard Rudowski. I'm very keen to inform you that this research is part of the Mediterranean Ways International Research Cluster created by Prof. Moserici for the Accademia dei Lincei. My work started from Domus number 152, dedicated to the theme of beach houses. As we know, Gio Ponti founded the Domus magazine in the same year of the first Congress International d'Architecture Moderne. Gio Ponti has always thought that the house was not only a machine habitaire, and for this reason it is important to compare these two events. In Domus number 88, he had already been interested in the theme of the Mediterranean. These are the pages in which he tells to some photos of the project of the architect Giuseppe Capponi in Capri. Some symbolic place of the European continent and also the coast of Campania in Italy have always been part of the grand tour, which involved therefore some symbolic place of the Mediterranean. In this image, we see the photos that Gideon took during the first Siam of the ship Paris II and which touched many places such as Santorini. Here we see some frames of the film shot by Molinari during Fort Siam. It was evident that the idealization of the Mediterranean icons and with them of the classical world has an incredible influence, so much so that it became a beacon for the modern moment. One of the favorite places for this classical Mediterraneanism became Capri, the manifesto of an ideal total project of the inland sea. Among the numerous figures who ventured into the Capri imagination, one of the most impressive this influence was Edwin Cerio. The Caprese Accademia, as Giuseppe Capponi defined it, is one of the examples of what we can define an exasperation of imperfection. If on the one hand we see the Caprese Academy, we do, however, see a new idea of lifestyle rise. Even with the Cerio Caprese Accademia, the tradition was emphasized by evoking an ever-clothing lyricism. Gio Ponti rilancia with Domus Nova Holiday Home, so as a first attempt to compose an evident relationship with the landscape. A further step toward the independence from the ideals of classicism to a new vision of living is taken with the Casa La Pompeiana, where Ponti tried to rework the patio theme. However, the project what will be fundamental for a new idea of living in the Mediterranean was a house in Positano and other shows by Bernard Rudowski and Luigi Cosenza that Ponti saw in Casabella. Rudowski's ideas become central to what will be the new idea of living linked with the Mediterranean. One of Rudowski's favorite activities during his tour was the redesign place. He loved to draw, and from the type of reproduction, from the interpretation of his favorite subject, we understand the influence that his architectural references have had. On Domus 109, House in Positano and Other Shores is then published, which is one of the three fundamental projects for the new idea of Mediterranean. The space consists of the two levels, where the ground floor appears as a continuous surface, a rock that turns into a lapillus boulder and invites you to walk through the house with bare feet. The upper floor contains a closed room, the bedroom which, through a window, observed the natural context. The choice of stone and the plaster derives from the desire to emphasize the relationship between matter and Ponti, or as Ponti writes, to satisfy his lyricism.
After his project, Ponti asked to Bernard Rodowsky to publish an article not only to describe the project, but to tell his vision of the idea of home, and him used Procida as a place of the new idea of life. The powerful image contained in Domus and which made this project famous underlined the revolutionary abacus. The Positano Cliff is a safe landing place for the pure architecture defined by limestone block and the poor white plaster. If Procida remains the ideal place for Rodowsky and Cosenza, Capri is instead the experimentation space chosen by Ponti and Rodowsky, who in 1938 designed un albergo nel bosco in zona Capri. Using a beautiful sloping site, the architects concentrated the main common service in the entrance building and then dispersed the room, single or double, in the scaffold wood, like many single houses, providing a careful interpretation not only of the landscape but of a Capri life by designing for the first time a real wide-speed hotel. Another variation of the theme is the Hotel du Campo for the Rock in Antibes, which always develops on the idea of creating a village and not just holiday homes. At the beginning of this story on the architecture of the inland sea, we're talking about the disruptive force of this issue. Ponti made it clear that the project should not be as a stupid imitation in first wooden folklore, but a true interpretation of the constitutive elements. This triptych of a project has probably, in a totally unconscious way, also determined the Mediterranean style and way of living, as Rodowsky would say. In that edition of Domus, we can find a house on the Sicilian Sea. The house is imagined in Sicily, and also the graphic narrative mode is directly linked to the Rodowsky classical imaginary. Here we see the ground floor plan and the first floor plan, and the beautiful perspective and the perspective section. Here we find some projects that are indebted to the secret of the Mediterranean imagined by Ponti, Cosenza, and Rodowsky. From now, we can see other projects inspired by the right dream made by Ponti, Cosenza, and Rodowsky. The influence of the housing Procida is also clearly visible in the Marco Zanuso project for the very famous twin houses in Arzachena in Sardinia. In this project, relives the idea of the primitive intended as a story for basic needs consisting of the absence of limit between inside and outside, and where mentors to nature by composing a space in which to live in communion with it. The house in Positano and other shore is instead an inspiration for other stereo projects, such as the house and the ideal by Giulio Luca. The link with the idea of the new way of living of the villa is clear for a man who needs to relate to the landscape. The inside and the outside is obviously a single design move that sees the outside as a monolith of stone and glass. In Giulio Minolet's project, the stone wall is the element of continuity between the house and the landscape, an inverse bastion that is not only reflected in the base of Villa Oro, but above all in the work of the horizontality of the house in Positano. The idea that comes out of the project of Luigi Cosenza, Rodowsky, and Gio Ponti, as described for some project of the following years, becomes a small Mediterranean brewery that will be possible to find in the project previously included, but also in the world of Antonio Coder, Caris Costantinidis, Luigi Moretti, and all those who made the relationship with the domestic landscape and the natural compositional element of the project. Below I show you two of my projects that were born starting from the Mediterranean brewery that Ponti, Cosenza, and Rodowsky gave us. This house is dedicated who want to live in communion with all the elements of the nature. The landscape and the rock are grafted into every part of the project, which therefore manifests itself as a voluntary derivation of the natural element. Access is to the two walls that lead to the center of the inhabited space. On the right of the entrance wall, there are two seats that point towards the horizon. Each domestic activity is contained in the room island, and almost all the space open towards the center, a place where it will be possible to relax under a curtain that invites to experience the outdoor space of the house. The center pergola is partly paved and partly left in stone, so as to allow the guests to experience both the anthropization and the wild aspect of nature. The only block that does not interact with the center is the bathroom, which is imagined as a place dedicated to isolation and meditation through a bathtub overlooking the rock. The person's space is all focused on the idea of embarking on a journey between matter, body, and sky.
The Island House is a project in which naturalist and nature try to contribute to the same architectural material. Here we can find the perspective. In this case, we read the relationship between the court and the housing blocks. Here's the axonometry that summarizes the state between mass and lightness. This house is designed for those who love the constant relationship with water, which becomes a crucial part of the entrance space. Access to the house is only from the sea, throughout archaic and contemporary timeless walls. The water arrives to the circular space that with the colonnade bring to mind the sacredness of the impluvium. Upon crossing the circular area, there is the house made up of two asymmetrical elements that are visible. The first block on the left is a space dedicated to the body that ends with a springboard that allows to the reactivate the spatial story that starts from the water and leads back to it. Inside the body on the right, there are the domestic elements that require closure, such as the bedroom and the kitchen, intended as a service space. The whole house opens up to the open-air center, the true heart of the house that opens up towards the landscape. The protagonist of the project is the horizon, intended as a relationship with the landscape, not only out but also in. As in the Pontian Tales, the entire interior space finds its power in the observation of the outside that determines and sets the pace of the project. Here we can find the perspective in terms from the sea and an axonometry that summarizes the relationship with the water and architecture. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. Now I share the other presentation. Only a moment, please.
I feel guilty that I threw everything for you. I apologize, my dear. Sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry. Okay. Can you see?
Hi, I am Duygu. I am working at Alanya
Yes, clear.
University and doing master degree. This presentation, Understanding Cinematics about Space-Terminal Metaphors in a Postmodern Urban Planner Diary, the case of Before Sunrise. This paper focuses on Richard Linklater's Before Sunrise movie, which presents urban place and a social and daily city life of the 19th Vienna as a spatial fiction. Although it seems to be a recreation of a postmodern figure story, it's an interpretation of a contemporary urban diary. Introduction. This paper suggests that the space-temporal metaphors are portrayed explicitly in the movie, and those metaphors have become intricately turned into cinematics. The paper seeks to understand how these metaphors are embedded by metaphors which create cinematics. As a result, this paper suggests that Linklater uses the cinematics deliberately. Spatiotemporal metacodes cinematics. These spatiotemporal metacodes, which are expressively illustrated in cinema, are intricately turned into cinematics. This figure Linklater's spatio-terminal configuration for Vienna in Before Sunrise. Firstly, Zulumstak Bridge is chosen as a metaphorical threshold and as a starting point of the journey for the contemporary urban diary of the couple. In the scene of moving through the city with the Vienna red tram, the characters sit at the backside of the tram in front of the wide window. The short scene before commentary is an attempt to combine major urban forms such as large green areas in a garden and sculptures where people can meet, talk, and share experiences think and drink together. The schematary skin indicates a new concept of the white rabbit metaphor, which is a fictional character in Lewis Carroll's book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. While the mole is generally depicted at eye level, Linklater is spraying poison and new layer from above the existing urban texture by allowing an alternative bird's eye vista from the first line. This location is the highest part of seeing the city vertically. Even though the secure serves itself as a dense central space in an urban form, the atmosphere of the secure with Kleinskape is almost empty. Linklater tries to own this quite small void in a public square where the couple encounters the fortune teller as an experience provoked by an individual identities. In the second volume, the Kleinskape, the postmodern wanderer couple passes by an exhibition poster of French neo-impressionist painter George Seurat, whose exhibition has never been organized in Vienna. This again is the most apparent cinematic about existentialism in the movie, which critical dialogues about life and death and questioning the meaning of the life. The church has been criticized as being a single, unique space which is in place where countless souls suffering and trying to find answer. In the second, which takes place along the Danone Canal, the couple encounters a poet who asks them for a word from which he will write a poem. Although the scene after the waterside, which takes place in the interior of a club, does not focus on the periphery, and it has a non-urban representation nation that is providing a deeper understanding in between space. The early skin presentation discussion on time-space duality in this skin, Selin argues that God is an abstract thinking form, and this form of God must be something beyond, either spanning across time and space. She adds that I believe if there is any kind of God, it wouldn't be any of use as not you or me, but just simply the space in between. In a narrow street that they are just in and on a pallet bench. Linklater encouraged use the concrete on Selin's face with something similar to Botticelli's artwork of Birth of Venus. The representation of Selin is like Jesse Botticelli, angels waiting for him. In this respect, the film's line is not so much about law and that as it's a dialogue between them. The visual power of the outdoor terrace of the Albertina Museum overlooking the Vienna Opera House reminds us of an urban modern Cinderella folk tale. Ship restaurant skin. In the movie, visual landscape of the urban space have been generally illustrated by natural borders, such as walking on stone pavements or walking across the edge of the Danube Canal. Furthermore, the space has been presented as an insight into a different kind of a public night as a canal ship restaurant. While there is always vertically embedded in walking or sitting in the gardens during the nighttime, lying on the grass in the garden space provides a horizontal examination of public space. This means creating an intimate and private space for the couple within no border beyond darkness, and there is only unlimited waste ground. the window skin in the jazz and Celine are captured by the rhythm of Bach. So that jazz wants to capture the picture of Celine as being his Botticelli angel in real time to his memory. And the window as an architectural element in its resemblance to framing ability solidifies Linklater's pronounced validation of projection, the style of time capturing. Metaphorically, the clock began to strike 12 in Cinderella's story, which is the end of their limited time. Similarly, the second starts within the ringing of the bells. Statue stair skins. The reflection of the Vienna railway station as a symbolic meaning is a threshold and decision-making point for a new journey with a stranger or continuing to preserve life. It's a metaphorical turnout that the couple decides to leave their meeting again at the aperture. Findings, it creates a temporal experience for viewers, which Linklater uses strategy of duration to explore in time, and with space its temporality. Linklater subtly submits metaphorical reference while indicating this urban space as flashbacks. 1, the bridge; 2, the ship restaurant; 3, deck of ship restaurant; 4, the Albertina Museum terrace; 5, the alley in between space in; 6, the cemetery; 7, Funfair, the Ferris wheel; 8, Klein's Cafe; 9, Donan Canal; 10, the park. Findings that Linklater's space-terminal representation strategy is constructed on the experimental and dynamic temporal relationship between space and viewer. Although the director prioritizes just selected 10 seconds as a lively urban frame, 2 of them depict the same urban space from different perspectives. But the other offer maintained urban space, which remain space terminal metaphors and have been analyzed in this paper, also desired to be portrayed as lively urban frames. These spaces are street exhibition, restaurants, coffee spray, the window of the harpist hordist, terrace, statue stairs, the train station. Conclusion, Linklater is imagining the modern city through the eyes of wanderers whose expectations and acts are based on Generation X in a very sensitive way to harmonious Baroque, echoes while vettering existentialism. Linklater's attention to the carpe diem mentality of the Baroque clearly reflects the dominant mood of suffering under modern existence by rejections as specific destination to reach and a finite goal to strive for it. Firstly, it is realized that space have prioritized in film narrative at the end of the movie, and they are not the only skins that maintain metacodes. Secondly, although Linklater limits the period urban space by memory elitism, street exhibition, restaurant, cafe sprawl, the window of the harpist corded, this terrace, statue stairs, train station, space also desired to be portrayed at the end of the movie in the context of remaining metacodes. Thirdly, Linklater showed his reaction to modernity while criticizing the limited time of human life by carpe diem mentality as a novel interpretation of postmodern wanderers' contemporary urban diary. The most dominant two attention for capturing time in space are evidenced by urban modern Cinderella and white rabbit metaphors. Using this metacodes gives access to capture the viewer's attention to think about rapid change of daily life patterns and routines, which causes the loss of individual control over self-decisions and also loss of the relationship between human interaction with each other and with the environment.